We have a panel this evening, but we're very fortunate that before the panel begins, Dr. Showa, our President and Chancellor of Showa Women's University, Mariko Bando, will have a few words. I think it's safe to say that she does not really require an introduction to you all, but just to remind you, she worked in the Japanese government in different jobs for 34 years. That included her serving as the first female career bureaucrat in the office of the Prime Minister, and also the first woman to serve as a Consul General overseas in Brisbane, Australia. As you know, she has published many books. The Dignity of a Woman sold more than 3 million copies and was Japan's #1 bestseller in the year 2007. I will stop there. Bando-san, if you could say a few words.
Thank you, Frank. I'd like to say sincere gratitude to all of the members who come here to give a discussion to our students. And especially, I am very impressed with their volunteers to give more information and encouragement to our students, because I think, same as me, we women struggled for the long years to get equal job and equal status. Yes, as Frank introduced, I've been working in government from after I graduated to the universities. And in those days, to have child and career was very difficult. Yes, it was only the 6 week before, after 6 week after maternity leave. It is very difficult to find a daycare center for children. But now, we make a change. You will, in future, if you have a child, you may take 18 months child care leave, and you can get a short time work till the child becomes 6 years old. And during the child care leave, you may pay 60% of previous income, salary, and you are guaranteed to go back to the same positions before your leave. But anyway, and still there are some obstacles for conquer, and Japanese women have only 11% of managerial positions. And I hope you may know, Prime Minister Abe declared till 2020, women should consist of 30% of leadership positions. 30%. 11% to 30% looks very difficult to change in 5 years. And so I think we especially you young generation challenge for the new target. As American sisters target for so-called glass ceiling. Glass ceiling means it does not look same as the blue sky, but we cannot see. But there are some ceiling difficult to break. But in Japan, not glass ceiling, bamboo. I have always said bamboo barriers. Bamboo barrier, not ceiling. Bamboo barrier difficult to get in. Once we get into the inner circle, there may be more equal opportunities, equal treatment. But to get into the bamboo circle is still difficult. So I hope you challenge to break the bamboo barriers. One of the tools, one of the weapons to break the bamboo barrier is English. if you have some skills of language, it's one of the weapons. But it's only the one tools. You must have the fighting spirit. You have to know more about your business, and you must be ambitious. You must be ambitious to develop your own futures. You cannot rely on someone else. You are the owner of your life. That's what I want to learn from their discussions. Thank you very much again.
More than a year ago, before the first business students came to Showa, Boston, from the Tokyo campus, we were contacted by the Japanese consulate here in Boston. And they told us that there was someone we should talk to. And they introduced to us Kate McDonough at the end of this table. And Kate came to Showa, Boston, and she said, I think that there are a number of professional people here in the Boston area, successful women, who could speak to your students and give them some examples of what it's like to be a successful woman professional here in the United States. Now, I wonder if you would be interested in that. Of course, here we were beginning this new program in business, and so we said, yes, please. We were extremely fortunate that Kate approached us just when we were beginning to accept students like you who need to meet people in successful positions and can tell you exactly what it's like, what their lives have been like, what their work lives are like, how they balance the two. Now, I'll leave it to Kate to introduce our panelists, but just to say a word about her own background. Kate McDonough is the co-founder of the Business Coalition. She has over 20 years of sales and management experience. In the past, she managed an international business center in Boston, worked as manager for an international chain with centers in the Boston area, and owned and operated a business center in the city of Brooklyn that attracted international companies that set up satellite operations here in the United States. In her current role with the Business Coalition, Kate is responsible for overseeing programs and events and developing relationships with state agencies and consulates. Now again, over the last year, Kate has been responsible for introducing a variety of different successful businesswomen to our students in a variety of different venues, different programs. It's been extremely helpful to your senpai, the students who came before you, and we very much look forward to working with Kate in the future.
Good evening, everybody. A few years ago, I was introduced to the then economic attaché from the Consulate of Japan to New England. Her name was Sasako Kanda. And we became quite friendly as working women in Boston. One day, over coffee or tea, she asked me if I thought the women members of the Business Coalition would be interested in working with the students attending Showa Boston as mentors into business. Sasako then introduced me to the new incoming president of Showa Boston, Dr. Frank Schwartz. The three of us then began seeking ways that some of the influential women of leading businesses in Boston could work with the students in a comprehensive way, with the goal of making the relationship a bridge between business and school. We are sensitive to the fact that there are culture differences between our two countries. So we all agreed that the first step was to present to the students why we work. In the United States, women have been insisting on equal rights and equal pay in the workplace since World War II. However, more significant than just equality, we will touch on the fact that every person's life is not a fairy tale ending. And you know, the one that is, they got married and then they lived happily ever after. Last year, TBC's women's group held pilot programs that included an interactive mock boardroom presentation, which was held at She and Finney Bass, a Boston law firm, a job shadow day with Citizens Bank, and 2 classroom presentations on the elevator pitch and knowing your value. We are pleased to say that these professional development programs were received well, and with the participation now of the teachers and Mr. McCoy and strong support of Dr. Schwartz, the TBC's women's group will continue working together on these programs this year, as well as adding mock interviews that will include recommendations to hire or not hire, and giving the reasons of why. We believe this will provide students a strong start in the business world. Now, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the panelists. These are very brave women, you know, who are sitting here, because I don't know if you realize it, they don't know each other. They do not work together on a day-to-day basis. We network together, and our interest is in international business. That's what binds us together. When I asked them, I called each one and asked them if they would share their personal story to you about why they work. And I think that you'll be surprised at some of the reasons of why. And I want you to notice we're all different ages. We all have different backgrounds. But yet every one of these women sitting before you are influential within their own companies and a very successful career in the business world, and they also are very involved in volunteer work. So they live very busy, very what we call full lives. Please note that they wanted to work with what we refer to you as our little sisters, because we would all look behind us at our little sisters and provide them with whatever knowledge we have gained as we go along, and we'd like to be able to let you know what some of the stumbling blocks are also. I also want you to know in the sheet that was handed out, the women provided their email addresses to you, because as we have done this before, sometimes one story will resonate with somebody, and if you would like to be able to contact them after this event, they have all asked for you to feel free. And with that, I'd like to introduce the panel. I'm just going to hand the microphone off to them. They'll introduce themselves to you, tell you about their companies and why they work.
Thank you, Kate. It's an honor to be here today. I'm actually going to stand. My name is Alice Stein, and I have my own marketing consultancy. It took me a long time to get my own company. I was very scared, but I'll get into that more later. What I'd like to do is tell you why I work, because I think that's a very important topic here. To give you some more context about who I am as an individual, I want to go back to when I was born, a long time ago. In the 1970s, I was born, and I was born in St. Petersburg, Russia. I was born in the Soviet, at the time it was the Soviet Union. And I was born to a family of doctors, and I didn't have a father growing up. I had primarily my mother and my grandmother, and they were two very strong matriarchs. My grandmother worked as a pathologist. She ran her own clinic. My mom was an orthodontist. So everyone had some sort of career path in the medical profession. And I was very young when we came to the United States, and we came to the United States in the 1980s. And it was just my mother and I, and because we were technically fleeing Russia, they gave us $90. And they said, here, take $90, immigrate, you're leaving this country, you're abandoning this country, we're gonna take all your paperwork, you can never come back here, and start your new life in America, this place called America. And so we did. When we moved to America, we settled in a place called Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is a very tough neighborhood. And that was the first time in my life when I really experienced poverty. I never had at that point, even under a communist regime. I never experienced poverty. And the minute we got to America, my mother within weeks, threw herself into studies, and she ended up getting into a very prestigious dental school, Tufts University, and actually accelerated her studies there and became a dentist here in the US, and has gone to launch a very successful practice here in Massachusetts. And so growing up, I quickly, after experiencing poverty very rapidly, became middle class. But it was all to my mother who worked so hard to provide for us. And so for me, when I think of work, I think of my mother. And I think about the sacrifices that she made for us to bring us here, and to bring me here, and to show me what an example of a hardworking woman is. And of course, I looked at my mom as I did not go into medical school, and I know I disappointed her very much. But I went into business. I just didn't get into medical school. I didn't want to take any more tests. I just wanted to go into business. And so I did just that. I worked my way up in different corporations. At one point, I was the head of marketing of a very large global staffing company. I was the head of the communications zone for Americas, and I was in charge of bringing together one of the largest mergers in staffing industry history, and it was something that the CEO asked me to do. And it was very high profile, very challenging, but it was a test to my volition and my ability to succeed. And after that position, and having worked other positions, I realized that I was like my mother. I had her genetics. I was strong, and I was in some ways fearless. But the only area where I had fear was being on my own. Because I know that if I went on my own and I had to launch my own business, it would all be me. There would be no one else. It would just be me. And only until I met my husband several years ago, so it's fairly recent when I had my business, did I feel strong enough to launch my career, because he became very much a huge supporter of me. And again, I had people in my network who said, you should start your business 10 years ago. Come on, why are you wasting time? But I was immobilized by my own, I guess, lack of confidence. And it was unprecedented and unnecessary. But it was all in my head, so I got out of my head very quickly. And my husband encouraged me so much, and obviously my mother being a prime example of someone who inspired me to be successful, even in times of hardship. So I went ahead several years ago, started my business, ended up obviously getting married, and just last year I got married officially to my husband. And at that same time frame, I learned that I was pregnant. And I should also tell you, there's other things going on in my life besides marriage and pregnancy and having my own business. I was also working with the American Marketing Association here in Boston, and I was serving as president. So I was managing a board of directors that consisted of 14 people. They were all volunteer positions. I did not pay them. I paid them with mostly love, and it seemed to work. They seemed receptive to my love. And for a while, I was juggling all of those different things all together. Just 4 months ago, I had a baby. I had a little boy, and I had a very, very challenging labor process, very hard, 27 hours of labor, it was very hard. And on my first week of having the baby, I was still working. I had clients. I had big global clients that needed me. I had to be there for them. And even though I had a very intense procedure to get the baby out, it was cesarean. I'm not sure what the Japanese translation is, but it's abdominal surgery. And I was on the phone with my clients, and we were working through some major initiatives, and I had not, I didn't want to let them know that I was so weak. But sometimes when you run your own business, you have to be strong, irrespective of if you feel weak, because people are counting on you, and they believe in you, and they hire you to do something. So why I work because it inspires me. It keeps me interested. It gives me reason to wake every day up. And besides, obviously, my son, my husband, my friends, my family. I have a very rich life in that respect. But why I work, it's because it gives me layers to my personality. It gives me complexity. It gives me interest. Every day I wake up, and I am happy to wake up. And I am happy to juggle my son, juggle our nanny, juggle my husband, juggle all those things. It's a really, I've gotten to the point where it's a blessing. And I'm so grateful for the people who believe in me and who have been my mentors, including my mom, and for showing me that work is worthwhile. And just make sure that when you do take the plunge and you start your own business, which I hopefully 50% of the people here will, you have a good network to support you. That's the number one advice I would say in terms of getting yourself a new independent life as a business owner. So thank you. Arigato.
That was a great job. I don't know if I'm going to be able to follow that up. My life is fairly boring. My name is Kate Duggan. I'm the principal broker of Bostonia Properties. We sell real estate in Boston. And my experience is I guess, we all have different stories. But I think one common theme for majority of change is discomfort. When everything's going great, why change? It's when there is discomfort that you find change. And for me wanting to have my own business and for me to want to be a professional woman was, I hate to say this, but because my mom, I love her dearly, but she's not super responsible. And as a child, I knew that I wanted more security in my own life. And how was I going to get that security? Well, I certainly couldn't rely on my mom. So I decided to do whatever it took to give me that security. And for me, what security is to have a great family. I have 3 little boys. I have a wonderful husband. We have a little puppy. I still have a great relationship with my mother and my father and my sister. But my parents divorced when I was 4. They actually separated when I was born. But so I had a lot of dysfunction. And so I started by studying hard. I said, if I'm going to do anything with my life, I need to be educated. So the first thing I did was work as hard as I could to get a good degree. And so after graduating, I got a job in a company, in a large company. And at that company, they always said, you're in this program, this management program, you're going to have a job for life. It was called the Financial Management Development Program, and you were called a FUMTI, and you were considered like golden within the company. But that was pretty dissatisfying to me to know that no matter how hard I worked or how little I worked, I was going to have the same job. I might get promoted, but there was really no direct correlation between how hard I worked and how much success I would see. So I asked my dad, what do you think I should do? This is a comfortable job, but it's not how I see me spending the rest of my life. So my father said, go to law school. So, okay, you kind of listen to your advisors, and that's what my advisor told me to do. So I went to law school at night, and I worked in a law firm during the day. And again, I said, geez, this is just not what I see myself doing for the rest of my life. It was very transaction-oriented. And it's a great job, it's a great profession, it's just not what I was called to do. And I had always loved real estate because, again, security. What is more secure than having a house, a place to live? So I guess that is what was the driving force behind the profession I chose. So I started selling real estate and have been selling real estate since I graduated from law school in 2002. And it's been incredibly rewarding. And the advice I can share with you from my own life is, you have to really be your own advocate. For me to kind of go against what my father said I should do for the rest of my life, be a lawyer, Kate, be a lawyer, and know that, yeah, I could be a lawyer, but is that going to really make me happy and want to get out of bed every single day? And so, I decided, to find out who, first of all, I really was as a person and what was going to drive me, because as we will all say, we have very busy lives, and it's not just our profession, but it's our personal life and our, volunteering and many other things that we all do. But you have to like what you do, or you're not going to want to do it. So for me, I think finding your passion is so important, because as Alice said, it's not work. It's what you really enjoy doing, and you don't mind doing it at all. One other bit of advice that I want to share with you all is, you're going to have times where you have to be incredibly decisive, but you're going to have times where you're feeling not so certain about some of the decisions you're making. But you really have to be strong and believe in yourself, because there's going to be people doubting you all around you. And you have to be confident and know what you believe in is right and what you're doing is right, and you're giving your clients or whatever the issue may be the best service possible. One other thing, one of my sons actually was homesick today, and and I told him to write a speech for me this evening. So it was pretty funny. It was a lot about himself. One thing I did ask him was, can you please answer the question what it's like to have a working mom? And so he answered, and he said, it's really nice to know that you have a mom that is working hard to support you and to make sure that you have food on the table. And but it is kind of sad sometimes when your mom is not around. So it's there are times where you may not be in two places at once, but I think it's so important to have a good relationship with your children, and even if you can't physically be there for them emotionally. One of my sons, needed to tell me something incredibly devastating today in private. I said, well, my mother-in-law happened to be over my house, and I said, what is the issue? And he said he thought he might get called to the principal's office. So, but it was just because he had a ball go out of bounds at recess. I mean, we're not talking anything serious. But just to be able to have that relationship and make sure that your children know they can always come to you regardless if you're there or you're not there, that they can always talk to you. So I think the reasons that I work is, I think I would not be very fulfilled if I stayed home all the time. I really enjoy working, and financially it's great because as a result of working, we have great things in our lives. We have a cave house, we have a beautiful house, we have a lot of things, and I'm not saying that material items should make or break who you are as an individual, but it is really nice to have some great benefits in your life as a result of working. So anyway, that's really what I have to say.
Hi, I'm Wendy Decker, and I am the Director of Client Development for Morris, Barnes, Brown & Pendleton, which is a 40-person law firm in Waltham, Mass. I actually have only been with them for a month. This is the very first role that they've had for a Director of Client Development, and I was recruited for the position because I've worked in law firm marketing for over 20 years and worked for some large national firms as well as some local regional firms, and the experience that I've gathered over my 20 years will be beneficial to help them grow their business. I actually have a daughter who's 16 years old, and she goes to Dana Hall, so an all-girls school, so I'm very involved with my daughter, and I've been working since she was very young, and my husband supported me in that role of me working, and I have a little bit of a, I think, unique situation where my husband was working for a startup. And I'm not sure if you know what a startup is, but it's an organization that is trying to build a business from the ground up. And oftentimes there is no income that comes in from a startup business. And so for about 6 or 7 years, I was the sole breadwinner of the family. I took care of the health benefits. I mean, he was home because he was working out of our home with the startup, and he was sort of the primary caretaker of taking my daughter to the doctor or getting her to school or getting her to appointments. Recently, and I can say thankfully, their hard work paid off, and the company that he works for is called 3D Systems, which is a 3D printing company, and he is now employed by 3D Systems, still can work remotely because they're based in Burbank, California, and that would be a really long commute that we don't want him to do. But he still has the availability to be there for my daughter, and it allows me to be able to come to things like this so I can talk about the experiences that I have. Being the mom of a 16-year-old, my daughter is very, very involved in horseback riding, and to kind of balance what these guys were saying, it is a balance. I mean, I was texting with my daughter right before we had dinner because she had a riding lesson this afternoon, and the horse that she was on walked her off, and she took a fall. Being available even just by text for me to say, are you okay? Do you need me to come home? I can if that's necessary. Are you hurt? My husband was with her, so I knew all was fine. But she was like, no, I'm fine. I've fallen off the horse before. It's really not a big deal. I'm probably gonna have a bruise, but yeah, I got back up and got back on. So one of the things that I take from my daughter is her strength and her courage, because she is a very introverted young woman, and she has been since she's been a very small girl. And she came to my husband and I and said that she wanted to go to Dana Hall. She wanted to go to an all-girls school. She wanted to have a smaller environment. We live in Needham, Mass, and the high school has, well, gosh, I think about 2,600 kids, and it was just too big for her. And she had the thought and the wherewithal to come research what she wanted to do. She came to us with where the school was, what the admissions process was, what the financial aid process was, the fact that they had a riding program and she could take her PE credit for riding. She really wanted this, and so this is something that she did the research and came to us with a plan that was actionable, and you know, she had to take the tests, she had to go through the interview process, but she got in, and this has been the best year. She has gone from being a very introverted young woman to a more extroverted young woman who can speak her mind, who can easily articulate what she wants from life. You know, she's thinking about college and where she wants to go and what's important to her and what her priorities are. And if anything, again, reiterating, you have to kind of know what you want in your life and go for it and have the confidence in yourself, even if you don't have that confidence, to be able to put a plan to paper and speak your mind and do it in a very respectful way, in a way that shows that there was a thought process. I mean, if she would have just come to us and said, yeah, I'm going to Dana Hall and I don't know what to do about it, I've been like, well, okay, go figure it out. I'm not going to do the legwork for you. So my daughter inspires me to be a better person, and the reason I work is because I really love what I do. I love working with smart people. I like helping them solve problems. I'm a good role model to my daughter because she sees that hard work does pay off, and that, yes, it allows you some comforts. I mean, she wouldn't be able to be horseback riding 6 times in 5 days if I wasn't working and my husband wasn't working, and we wouldn't be able to go on ski vacations or other things. So I work because I love it and I love the people I work with, and it's just truly something that makes you feel very alive. Thank you.
Technology resources, and one is called the Proactive Business Network, which we just started this year. One is an IT-based company, so it handles all kinds of technology, hardware, software, networking, and I come from a technology background, but unfortunately, my technological knowledge has been eclipsed by all of the modern changes. So my husband really runs that business. He's the specialist in that. But the Proactive Business Network we started is a video and audio podcasting network. So we make corporate videos and we do audio podcasts, which people can listen to all over the world. I'm specifically starting a podcast about nonprofit groups because I like to do a lot of volunteer work. Even when I am working full-time, I still manage to spend a lot of time working in the community because I find that to be very valuable to give back to help other people. That's just how I was raised. So we're starting this podcast where we can interview different nonprofit groups and help them spread their message. One of the reasons that I work is because I really enjoy using my varied past. I have done a lot of different things, from business work to corporate and commercial interior design work. I've worked in my father's finance business, stock brokerage business. So I have kind of a very varied background. I guess I tried a lot of different things before I found what I really liked doing. I also get to work with my husband, who is filming us right now. So I really enjoy that we've grown a business together, that we have the opportunity to really do whatever we want, whenever we want. I find that very liberating. We can take on clients that a lot of other customers, a lot of other companies might not want to work with, because we have the opportunity to say, well, we're going to waive the fee this time and work with a charity, for example. I grew up with a lot of role models, like my mother, who was one of, if anyone heard me on the panel before, she was one of the first computer programmers in the country, in the United States. And so that really set the bar very high for me. She was very, very accomplished at university. And so there was always a lot of pressure on me to do very well in school and to go to a very top university and work very hard. I sort of always tried to take a different path, and I sort of always ended up back on the hard work gets results path. So I enjoy working hard, I enjoy working long hours. If there's the opportunity to sort of further my interests, to better myself. I've enjoyed working with foreign students, teaching them English and citizenship. That's been a big part of my life. And I find that very rewarding because I know what it's like to be a foreigner. I've lived in another country where I didn't speak the language, and trying to work in another country, trying to communicate in another country was very difficult for me. So I can certainly sympathize with people trying to come to America, and especially women who are trying to pursue their education and trying to pursue their careers. And I just hope that you all would certainly reach out to all of us and contact us with any questions you have afterwards. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. It's really a pleasure to chat with you this evening. Let me go current day and tell you where I am now, and then I'll go back in time a little bit. I'm a CPA, 30-person firm. I am one of 6 partners, 2 of which, myself and my tax partner, are women. I've been in that firm for, last year I just celebrated my 25th anniversary, so you can tell I love change. 25 years in the same firm. But I will tell you that it's constant change. And go back in time, I was lucky enough that I knew early on that I wanted to do something with accounting, not necessarily to be a certified public accountant, but I had a great high school accounting teacher. So when the decision made of where I was going to go for university, 2 choices: the number route or the words. Numbers, words. Did not like the words. So I said, you know what, I gravitated towards numbers, because I figured, okay, I know 1 and 1 is 2. Anything more than that is a calculator someplace that I can use. So I'm okay. So I was lucky enough to get into a local Bentley University that's in Waltham. That was my first and only choice. Would have been devastated if I didn't get in. So check, that was good. You know what, they wanted me. I'm not too sure if they would want me now, so I would not reapply. So I did 4 years there. And again, accounting is, you know what, a profession that, again, you know what, if you like numbers and analytical, it's a fabulous profession, you know, especially for women, that you can do certain facets. So again, I left Bentley University, and again, looked at the very large CPA firms, and I knew that was not me. I did not want to work in a 100-person, firm. So I went and worked for a local firm. I got fabulous experience. Went for a couple of different firms, and then 25 years ago ended up at a firm, Littman Gerson in Reuben. And that first day I didn't go to that interview say, you know what, I am going to be here next 25 years. But the firm was constantly changing. So again, I started, there was 10 people, then there was 12 people, then there was 15 people, and now there's 30 people. And I really play a dual role, which I love. And there's a client service role that we service companies, corporations, startups, international companies that want to come over here and start their business that has been successful around the country. And then also my other non-client service role is really serving the firm. So what I'm doing is the operation, the finance, the technology, the staff, which I love. So the question is, why do I work? So along this trail, I just loved what I did. I did not have any specific goals in mind, except to love what you do. And I think as all these ladies that have talked before me, it's passion. It's very positive, it's very passion. Work should not be work. You should basically go in with, if you think about it, what really do you like to do? What do you like to do? So if you close your eyes and just think about what do you like to do? What are your interests? And I will tell you that every profession has a personality type. So the stereotypical, an accountant that sits behind the desk and just has their calculator and their pencils, laptop, doesn't really talk to anyone, is not true. It's people. And I've had a fabulous support group, family, with friends. You'll make decisions along the road that there might be some bumps and bruises, but if you think back, that will actually get you where possibly you're going. It does not have to be, it doesn't have to be a straight line. But it can be crooked, it can be a dead end, so you can turn around and just take another, take another road. So what you believe in your mind is, again, where's your passion, where is your interest? And I am not married and I do not have any children, okay? And that's really, as I looked at my career, my career for me to do what I wanted to do, it was it, and that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. But my clients that I serve, some are very, like family, because we're solving, we're solving problems. It's not just not preparing a financial statement, it's not preparing their tax return. So it's that passion that really kind of gets me up in the morning, and it's not for the tax returns or that type of product, if you will, because we don't sell a product, we sell service. Okay, and it's the people that everyone I think has said here is your clients, or your customers. So it's really how you portray yourself. It's really confidence. Okay, and so that basically, someday you will be in this panel and we'll be over here, listening to all of you. And please, reach out, to any of us. So if there's any questions that arise, and if there's time afterwards, we'll certainly take questions. But what I can leave you with is really find out what your interest is and and what your passion, and go for it, and whatever it is, you will succeed.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessie Roberts. So it's funny, I'm going to shoot back to 13 years ago when I was you guys' age, right? So I was like a sophomore. Like, now you get to pick, right, what you're going to do with the rest of your life. In the next, 3 months or something, you go back, you pick a major, is that what's happening? Who knows what they want to do with the rest of their life? Just raise your hand. See? That was exactly how I felt as well. So let me say that you're in good company, and that probably this group of ladies right here, none of us knew exactly what we wanted to do for the rest of our lives when we were your age either. So if I think back to then, I remember when I graduated school, I had decided that I wanted to be an investment advisor. I was going to go to New York City, and I was going to be in the stock market, and like that I was going to manage money, right? That was kind of my thought. So a friend of mine owned a bar in Key West, Florida, which is like the Bahamas pretty much. And he said, come down for the winter, bartend, make a bunch of money, and then go to New York in the spring, and you can do this investment thing. So 6 years later, I was still in Key West, Florida. When I moved there, I ended up getting married. I'm not divorced. Getting married, owning my own business. So I owned a clothing store when I was down there, which was a really amazing thing to do if you ever have the opportunity to start your own business. At least for a little while in your life, have that experience. It's amazing. And so, yeah, so I learned, what it is to be the last person to get paid on Friday, right? Because all your employees get paid before you. Work long hours, but absolutely love what you do and get up every day to do it. And I did that with my ex-husband. So that was my forever after, right? So you own the business, and and you're married, and then the kids and all of that. Well, that didn't end up really being the story, though. So as much as I still talk to my ex-husband to this day, he calls me every time he needs business advice, that relationship kind of ended. And I was lucky enough, I think, to have gotten the education, as well as to have the confidence to say, okay, I can do something else on my own. So I moved back up to Boston, where I was from originally, and I started managing a bank. And I was like, okay, I've owned my own business, right? I've never worked really in banking before, but I've owned my own business. I've, done that whole piece. I can learn the banking side. And so we're a stockbroker, right? And then we're running a retail store. And now I am in the place of working at the bank. So I still work at the bank. I'm a relationship manager now, which basically means that I deal with mid to large privately owned companies. So I'm their banker, I'm their advisor from the banking side. So I've kind of worked my way up within that. And I think the reason why banking stuck was, like these ladies said, I found something that I liked to do every day. So I really think that, there's this work in business, right? These terms that we talk about. Work is like the other 25% of what I do in my day. Like 75% of you're in a good place when 75% of what you do in your day, you like to do, and you get paid for it, right? So that's like a really good situation. And then there's like the 25% of stuff that like you do in your everyday that you don't really want to do. It's like taking out the trash, right? You're still getting paid for it, which is nice, but it's the other 25%. So that's the work. The other part's a career. We're all going to get up every day. We're all going to go to bed every day. It's about what you choose to do in that time, in between, right? And I do a lot of things. So I was at, work today, earlier at work, and there were parts of my day that were like, I gotta make this call. And then there were parts of my day where I was sitting down with business owners at an even level playing field, saying, tell me what's going on with your business. Let's learn how to, let's teach you how to make more money. Let's figure out, kind of the equation like the accountants do. And then I'm very much involved with the Coalition, which is a nonprofit, right? So I spend time, I've mentored students here before, taken them out for the day with me, because I enjoy that piece, and I think that everybody should understand. And I was brought up in that sense of whatever you want to do, you can do it. It's your choice. There's there's always going to be an obstacle or whatever that is, but you kind of put those in your own way. You get to make your own choice of what you do every day, who you have in your life, where you choose to be. I think the fact that you're all here, I don't know that when I was in your place if I would have had the confidence to do that. I don't know how many of us here would have. So you're way above the mark there as far as I'm concerned. It was interesting, I was looking at the statistics earlier when we were having dinner, and he was saying that, I think it was like 58% of Japanese companies that are in international business have women in management. You know what that says? It says the world requires women in management. So like, you can choose to look in a small space and say, these are my restrictions, but the world, that was like one of the biggest, the world saying equal, level playing field. Everybody's on the same page, some countries need to catch up, some need to, whatever, but it's the world. And you're already global, right, because you're here. So you've already made that choice to kind of look in a global perspective. So I really applaud you guys for coming to another country, being kind of entrepreneurs already, women in business, right? So it's like, oh, Japanese women in business. You guys are like, you're ready. I mean, you can come work for any of these companies, I'm sure, as soon as you're done, if that's something you want to do. But I leave on this one part here. So throughout my career, my banking career, throughout my life, I have chosen role models and people that I really respect, men, women, all of that, right? To bounce ideas off of throughout my life. Hey, I'm thinking about changing careers. Hey, I'm thinking I want to take this direction. Hey, I have this client and I don't really know if this is a good situation or not. But I have found successful people in business that I would aspire to be someday, that have said to me, you know what, Jess, anytime you want to call me, feel free. And those are sometimes the people that you developed at this stage in your life, right? They're your internships, that are the ones that are gonna open the doors for you in your career down the road. So I definitely would say if you can find some of those people that you look up to, and they'd be willing, you know, to just be a phone call away, as I think we all are, do that. It's who you know really is really important in this business world.
I'm Janet Fearman. I'm one of the owners of a law firm, Gianfini Bass and Green. It's a regional business law firm. My clients are privately owned businesses. They're local, they're regional, and they're international. And many of them do business globally. My daughter asked me, did you always know you always wanted to be a lawyer? And I said, no. When I was growing up, and I'm probably the oldest person on this panel, I came from a family and a community and a society that said I should get married and have children and have a husband to take care of me. That's what my role was. And I went to university, and I was thinking, who knows what I was thinking. But when I was your age, at university, my father died very suddenly and unexpectedly on a business trip abroad. And over the next year, I discovered that my mother, who had never worked, was going to have to go to work because there wasn't enough money. And she was going to have to take care of herself and my younger brother and sister, and I was going to have to take care of myself. And that was a shock, but it was better for me than for my mother because I was young. The next year I met a medical student who I married, and I got my first job, and I hated it. I was miserable. I was working for somebody who was not very smart, who kept telling me to do really stupid things. It was boring, and I didn't like the people. And my husband said, quit. So when he became an intern and we moved to Washington, I didn't have a job, and I said, okay, I'll look for one. And it took me a year, and I was even more miserable. I was lonely. I didn't have contact with people. I didn't have what to do with my brain after a while, and I was very unhappy. And my husband said, you have got to find something to do because you're an active, lively person, and eventually you'll just get yourself in trouble. So I did find a job. I worked for the government, and I found a job I loved. I was an international trade economist for the Department of Commerce, and it was international and global, and my father was English, so I was comfortable. When we always knew that he was coming to Boston for his residency, and so as I got closer to that time, I thought, all right, what am I going to do? And I started to think about, well, what am I good at? You know, I'm good with language. I talk, I write. I'm good at solving problems. I like business. So I thought about law school, and I thought about business school, and ultimately I decided on law school because, unlike Janine, I'm better with words than numbers. And as a lawyer, you get to deal with a lot of different kinds of business, and you get to see how all different kinds of people make money. So I went to law school. I got there. I didn't know. I went to one of the professors I liked, and I said, we don't have advisors. Will you be my advisor? And he said, oh, absolutely. And he did. Through 3 years, he counseled me and helped me pick courses, and it was nice to have him. I had my first child when I was in law school. My husband and I both wanted kids, and I told him, I've learned my lesson about unemployment. I cannot stay home and not work. I will be a better mother if I do some working. And he agreed. So we sort of made a deal, and it's a long time ago. My oldest kid is married with 2 children. The deal was I would work 3 days a week when they were small, and as they got older, I would expand and do what I had to do to get full-time and then some, and I would pay for college, because as a doctor, he would top out on his income. And that he would step in more when they were in high school and teenagers, because he could do doctor's practice out of our house, which I couldn't. So that was what we thought in our heads, and and that was the plan. So I went and started working for law firms, and I discovered that the people around me in my community, particularly the women, were telling me I was not being a good mother. I was supposed to stay home with my children to be a good mother. And the people in my law firms were telling me I was not being a good lawyer because I was supposed to be there all the time to be a good lawyer. And neither of those things made any sense to me, and I'm not good at doing things that I don't agree with. And my husband and a judge who I had worked for, who has always been my mentor, said, set up your own law firm. The judge told me, he said, you have the profile, you'll love it, you'll be fine. So I did. I opened up my doors. I had no clients. I had more guts than sense, as they say. But the clients came, and I learned to do all different kinds of things, and I could pick my kids up at school and do the 3 days a week, and it worked fine. I have 3 kids. Then the kids started getting bigger, and they started saying, what do you mean you want your computer? I'm doing chemistry on it with my friends. And I started to work more and more in the office, and then I moved my practice downtown, and I got a partner, and by then I was working full-time. And we grew the law firm, and it was a lot of fun. I like taking care of clients. I like solving problems. I don't like everything about what I do. There are plenty of things I do. And there are plenty of days I go to the office and I think, oh my, why am I doing this? But by and large, I feel productive. I help businesses, I solve problems, I negotiate deals. And I was able to ramp up my practice and to, we had 8 lawyers and to pay for college. They all got educated, they all have university educations. Pay for 3 weddings, well, 2. The boys cost less. In this society, the family of the women pay the bulk of the wedding, but it's still expensive to get your sons married. And they were all married, and I have 4 grandchildren. But I still, and at some point I took my business and I merged it with a larger firm, She and Finney, and became one of the owners of that firm because it gave me a bigger platform. And I think about, why do I go to work? I volunteer in my town. I'm the head of the building commission. Why do I go to work? One reason is it makes me feel safe that I can support myself, that I can, that I can take care of myself and my children, my grandchildren if I need to. That gives me some personal sense of security. It makes my husband feel better too, because if something happens to him, what happens to me? And I like being able to help him. And if I need to keep my brain occupied, and I need to keep myself connected to other people. Will I work forever? That's a question he and I discussed now that we have grandchildren and they're not all around here. But you're far from that, so don't even think about it. I would have a couple of things to say to you. One is, make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. When I started my practice, I thought this could be a big mistake. If a year from now it's not working, I'll do something different. So feel free to make mistakes. As long as, I tell my clients, as long as nobody's hurt and nobody dies, you can fix it. It's just money, property, things. So feel free to make mistakes. Second of all, you look around and you think, look at all these women, they're terrific. I'm not like that. They're different. I couldn't do that. Sure you could. Underneath, most people are afraid, insecure. You probably can, or at least you should think about whether you could do it. Make up your own minds. Think about who you are. Do you need to work? Does it do something for you? And if the answer is, I think so, yes, then feel free to set aside your family and your culture and what they tell you should be doing, and do what makes sense for you. Some of the women I know work very long hours. They have help in the house to help them raise their children. Some of the women I know stop working entirely and stay home with their children for a while. Neither of those was a good solution for me. I needed an in-between solution. Make a solution that works for you. Second of all, I agree with Jamie. Everybody's scared. Find somebody like my judge or one of us. Find somebody who will help you and you can bounce ideas off. You can send an email and say, oh, I just had this interview and I think I really screwed it up. And then let that person walk you through it and help you sort out what really happened. Find mentors who you're comfortable with. I don't know that I ever would have had such a good work life if my judge hadn't been my counselor. And when work would get slow, he'd say, hey, go read the newspaper, see your kids. And when I would say to him, I want to take vacation with my kids, he'd say, so do it. And I would tell my clients, and I would tell them, if you need me, I am here for you. And by and large, they did without me. But find somebody who will help you in that way. And don't expect it to be perfect, but don't settle for something you hate. You're going to be miserable. Don't be miserable. You spend a lot of time working, so you should enjoy it.
As you can tell, we all come from very different backgrounds, and probably Janet and I were probably like one of the first generations going back to work after World War II. And it was not really always acceptable that a woman would work outside her home. And as Janet had said, the idea was people would say, well, if you're not at home, then who's raising your kids? I can tell you that by the time a kid gets to be 3, they start to socialize, and they don't need or want you around all the time. So if you make them all your life, it's going to be very disappointing when all you see is the back of their head as they go out the door with somebody else, because they're going to go out and have fun. It is important that you understand also that we're not always encouraged to stay in the workforce. I believe that as soon as something happens to a woman, something goes wrong, and you say, oh, I just don't know if I should be doing this, there's somebody who's going to be there right away and say, oh, you shouldn't be there. No, you should be home. You should just stay home. And of course, I'm a big proponent of having me time. I went and got my nails done. I got my toenails done today. But that can't be the highlight of my entire existence. I just can't imagine it. My mother did not work. Because she was not outside the home, it was very difficult for her to make friends. And I noticed that. She was very lonely. She was cut off from most of society. And I remember thinking, that ain't gonna happen to me. There's no way that that can happen. Despite the fact that she didn't work, I always thought that I would work because I liked being outside and being around people. And what I really like, and I still enjoy to this day, is that I like to pit my intelligence with somebody else. I'm not a good debater, but I really like to test myself every day out there as to where I really am in the world. So I'm going to ask the panel a couple of questions, and I would like questions from the audience, if you don't mind. How many people on the panel did their mother work? Okay, you'll notice it's the younger ones that their mothers work. Yours didn't, Jesse? Okay. Did you make a conscious decision to stay in the workforce, or did it just grow organically that once you got in there, you weren't going to give it up?
Conscious decision.
What did you?
Conscious decision.
Yours was conscious?
It was a conscious decision, and actually when I had my daughter, I was at another law firm, and there was a director role that was up, and I was actually probably about 6 months pregnant, and the law firm approached me and said, would you like to apply for this? And I knew at that point in my career that I didn't want to, because I knew what taking on a director role was going to mean, and I knew that I wanted a little flexibility in my life. I didn't want to leave the workforce, but I didn't want to take that challenge on right then. And so I said no, and I stayed in the capacity that I was. And only when my daughter, you know, as she started to get older, and you're right, you see the back of their head. I mean, she's 16. I don't even know if she's in the house half the time. You know, it's when I knew that I could take on more and more responsibility in the workplace because I didn't need to be physically there for her as much. So it was a conscious decision for me.
And Janine, when you went into the workforce, when you first went into the workforce, did you think that you were going to stay in the same place? Was that, were you searching for?
Were you always going to work? I was always going to work. Loved it, yes. Yeah, I couldn't imagine myself, again, when you close your eyes and you look, I couldn't imagine myself not working. Only, also, like what Kate said too, you know what, I mean, intellectually you want to be with people. You know, people want to be with people, you know what, socially, you know what, and that's what kind of developed, you know, with me. So, did I think I was going to be where I was 25 years later? Absolutely not, absolutely not.
Oh yeah, but you're a partner. I mean, I mean, I don't know if you understand that. Not many women reach that level in the workforce. So we have 2 women on the panel who are partners in their firms.
That means we're owners, that the ownership has taken us in as part of the ownership structure. And we're responsible, we get parts of the profits, and we're responsible for what goes on.
The other thing is you'll notice that every one of the panelists are very independent. They all tried at some point to be a business owner, and because it suited them at the time. And they were confident enough. They may not have all had the business savvy like you see on TV when you're watching American Express cards being advertised. But there is an independent streak within them as to how they view the world and how they respond back to the world. And at this point, I would like to start taking questions from the audience if you have any.
So what I didn't say earlier in my talk was that I actually retired from work at 25. I reached all my goals that I had set, and I said, now I'm retiring. I've gotten the level and the salary that I wanted to attain because I worked so hard, and I thought now I can start all over and do whatever I want. And I kind of kept finding that I went back to work, which was really, a lot of people kept saying, why do you keep going back to work? I could have just gotten married or whatever. But honestly, like everyone else here has said, there's just such a drive, there's such an independence. Perhaps it's bred into American women a little more. But I just wanted to let you know that sometimes you reach your goals and you find that you have new ones that develop after that.
Usually, even though now I'm a doctor and also university student in bank and work, sometimes I have no idea how can I make balance between my taking care of my younger sister and younger brother and with my mother and also studying. Especially I would like to try to get accounting certification. So usually I can make balance about it. So do you have any good idea to make balance between your house and work?
I have children who are at an age where they're very egocentric and it's really all about them and they really could care less about me. They love me, but so what I have done to help them understand that it's not just mommy and for you, your siblings, I've made like a common family goal. So I try to encourage them, listen, it's really important that mommy works because you like to have toys, right? So maybe you have some things that your siblings like, and then all of a sudden it's not just you and them, but it's like a common family goal. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what I did in my house.
I think one of the most important thing is to communicate with your family. And sometimes you have conversations that are very uncomfortable, but if you can come together and help each other prioritize what's important, because you can't do everything. You want to, but you can't. I find that for me every day, because of the business, the baby, and everything else that's going on, my husband and I have dinner together. We try to have dinner together every night, and it's sacred. And for me, I need to cook. After a long day, I need to cook. I love to cook, and that's my escape. And then we sit down and we talk about what we need to cover, what needs to happen, what do we have going on. We're selling a house. Okay, we have to meet with lawyers. We do all these things. We always communicate with each other because we are dependent on each other. And when you realize that you have this dependency of your family members, you have to just be honest with them and you have to communicate. And the conversations are uncomfortable. When I have conversations with my mother sometimes, they're very uncomfortable because she's just like me.
So I know today that my boyfriend, which will hopefully be my husband someday, I think this is the right one, is almost like a child. That when I come home, he requires all of my attention, right? So when I'm at work, at school, or doing that, I'm away from home. Because when I walk in the door, he's like a puppy. Right? And it's like, what is going on? Is this being recorded? So, what is going on? And let me tell you about my day. And like, he loves me, but he doesn't necessarily understand the focus that I need to have in order to have the conversation I have, do the work I do. So I set the expectations of when I'm going to be away from the house or when I'm going to be home. Because I recognize that it would be easy to just be able to go home and do the homework, do the work, do whatever it is, but that's not realistic for me. I get distracted. So I spend longer maybe in my office when I could go home, right? I spend maybe longer in my office at the end of the day because I know if I focus, I can do in an hour what would take me 3 hours when I get home. And he knows that when I'm there, I can spend that time with him, but he knows that I'm going to be away in order so that when I do come home, I can pay attention. So I think setting those expectations and really being able to draw that balance. Here's this time. You can't call me every 5 seconds. But when I'm home, I'll pay as much attention to you as you want.
I did the same thing until recently. I divided when I was in law school. I went there in the morning like a job. I went to classes, I did my work, and then I came home. And when I had kids, I worked at the office. When I was home, I was home. And until the kids got big, that worked much more easily. I allocated time and divided it.
Some of you are supported by great husband, and I'm still 18, but after graduate university, I will maybe work in some company, and I want to get married with someone until 25. So please tell me how to get great husband.
I did not plan on getting married. I did not want to get married. I said I was never getting married. When I was little, when I was a young girl, I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a prince and a princess wedding, and I wanted to have Cinderella, and I wanted to have a happy life and like 6 children, and it was going to be perfect. And then I got to working, and I realized that I really liked being independent, and I liked traveling all over the world, and I liked doing what I wanted to do. And I bought my own house, and I bought my own car. I've worked really hard for everything that I have. And I just thought, I'm just happy by myself. I have a wonderful cat. The cat is terrific. And then I really said, I had a lot of boyfriends, but I just thought, you know what, I'm not going to get married. And then I met, when I was not thinking about it, I met my husband now, Jamie, and he was Also very independent and hardworking and very nice. And he was very nice to his family, which was really important to me because the way he treated his family was terrific. But more importantly, he really wanted to build a company on his own. He had a lot of ambition of his own. And he asked my advice. And he treated me like an intellectual equal. And he didn't see me as just a woman that was going to stay home and take care of the house. He does most of the housework. He cooks. He does a lot of the cleaning, because Lord knows I don't. And he's been a terrific partner for me. He's really been my partner. And we are like best friends. And now we have 2 businesses together. We work together all day. We're together all the time. And we're so happy. And I can say that I never thought that I would have that. And I'm glad I waited. I mean, I didn't get married until I was 43 years old. And I'm 44 now. So we have only been married almost a year. And he's a lot younger than I am. So, but I really thought that I would just be very happy as an independent woman all my life. So you never know when you're going to find someone. You can't really set a timetable and say, you know, by this age I want to have this accomplished. I have friends that said, well, by 30 I want to have children and be married. And then it was like, well, by 35 I want to at least meet the man that I'm going to marry. Then it was, oh, I just want to get married. I don't care who I marry. I just want to get married and have children. And I kept saying, no, you don't. You don't want to just marry anyone. You want to have the right relationship. But most importantly, someone who really and truly supports you as an equal.
Eric, my husband, is actually my second husband. And this is going to, just so when they say you make mistakes, so my husband Eric was the best man in my first wedding. So, so we've known each other a very long time. And one of the things, and the person I was married to the first time, you need to find somebody who you have things in common with. You need to find somebody who can make you laugh. You need to find somebody who's going to support your dreams, make you happy when you're sad, be sad with you when you're sad. My first husband wasn't that, and I didn't know that because we were so surrounded by his family, which were from Massachusetts, and we always had other people interacting with us. We were never kind of on our own. And then we got married and we moved to Maryland, and we realized that we didn't like each other. Like we had nothing in common, and we would struggle to find things to talk about. And so we were married for a very short period of time, and then I moved back to Massachusetts. I mean, it was like 6 months, and and remained friends with Eric, and sort of just the friendship blossomed, and we actually happened to be sitting out for dinner one night, and it was someplace that we went to on a regular basis, and one of the waitresses said, "Oh, look, the Lovebirds are back." And we're kind of like, who are you talking about? We aren't even in a relationship. But that sort of little spark was like, oh, well, actually, we have a really good time together, and we're spending a lot of time together, and we make each other laugh, and we're having fun, and we go hiking together, and go mountain biking together. Yeah, maybe we should try dating. And we tried dating, and we got engaged in December 20 years ago, and married March 20 years ago, but it was a really short window. But it's you kind of have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find the right prince, and really the person that's that makes you feel good about you and helps support you is what you need to find. And it may be next week that you find that person, or it may not. You just have to really wait and find the person that is going to really, in a sense, corny, but be your soulmate, because you will find that and you will know it.
There's 2 things that I want to have you think about. One is you are planning on getting married, but you're also planning on having a career for at least a short period of time. During the time that you are single and you're making money, that you're going to spend on yourself, and you're going to reward yourself, and you're going to have independent thoughts of how you're going to spend your money. One of the things you must be aware of when you meet the man you want to marry, you have to see what he thinks about you being that kind of an independent person. Because if all of a sudden he tells you, okay, dear, I'll give you a couple of dollars for you to spend on yourself. I'll give you an allowance to spend on you, but I'm the breadwinner and you can't spend the, how are you going to feel? Think about inside you. Would you be resentful that this person has that kind of a control on your life? So when we're talking about a partner, it's somebody who goes into a marriage as an equal, and there are roles that are not equal, but in each other's eyes, you are equal. Nothing that he does surpasses what your needs are either. It's equal. And it's a very important line to think about when you're going to pick. It's not just a husband, it is a partner, because you are going to experience things that you would never, you can't even anticipate some of the things when you're getting married. Okay, that's my 2 cents, okay? But just remember, once you are you don't want to change back to what somebody else thinks you should be.
I second what Kate said, because one of the things that you learn as you're getting older, when I was about your age, I had a 5-year relationship with a very older jazz musician, and he taught me what a gentleman was. And for 5 years, I was courted very seriously by this gentleman, and but I didn't feel he was my husband. And then after that, I met another man who actually proposed to me. We were together for 5 years as well. And but again, something wasn't right. You know, I was trying different porridge and different beds, and nothing was working. You know, like little what was the story?
Goldilocks.
Yeah, Goldilocks. I was Goldilocks. And then it took me 9 years to find my partner. And through those 9 years, I had developed myself, because it's very important to love yourself. And because if you don't love yourself, no one will love you. And one of the most important things is that, for me, I know that from the past, I had these very good boyfriends who were almost there, but not 100%. They were very chivalrous to me, and that was very important to me. I needed a man who was respectful of me and took care of me, not in the sense where I was a little girl, he took care of me, but he would put on my coat, he would buy me flowers, he would open the door for me, he would be concerned about how I was doing, very genuinely, and he would respect me. He would never make me feel small. I was always his equal. And I was always looking for that. So it took me 9 years to find my husband. And on our first date, he brought me tulips. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tulips. And for me, it was such a sign of, this is chivalry. This is the man I've been waiting for. And again, he was very handsome, so that helped. But it was very ironic to me that it took me 9 years. But again, in those 9 years, I was working on myself. I was becoming the best possible person I could be to my partner. And it was a long journey, and it's a lot of work. But I became very clear on what I needed in life. And I even made a list. And it was very important to me. I even made a list. I need someone who's chivalrous. I need someone who's professional. And get really clear on what you want. Because if you want him, he's out there. But you have to be very clear. And you always have to keep yourself in mind, because you are always the only one that's going to set your own self-worth. It's very important. You set your own self-worth. And I couldn't be more blessed. My husband knows I'm crazy about him, and he's crazy about me. And it's a blessing, and it will happen. But you have to be clear of yourself, and you have to respect yourself.
I have a question back, because I have not been to Japan, and I would think, given everything that I've learned from being involved with your school over the years, that there is a group of your friends back at home that are not interested in like the business and making money and doing that side of things, right? That you grew up with, people that you probably still talk to, those, right? And you've taken a different path in being interested in business and kind of wanting to do that.
Yes,
Right?
right?
Is that true? So I'm asking everybody, is that true? Is there friends that you have that have kind of, now that you've come to college, friends you've grown up with your whole life, that have taken a path to maybe not look into like being in business and finding a career and doing that, but more kind of finding a husband, getting married, and having kids?
Do you all have friends like that?
Back home, right?
Back home?
So my thought is, because you're only here for a short period of time, that because you're saying, I'm gonna go back home, I'm gonna work for a little while, and I'm gonna, I wanna get married. How different is it gonna be when you go back? Because I would think that the type of man that would like your friend, it was kind of like, I just want to get married and have kids and really not interested in furthering my education and doing that, right? So the person that would be a good fit for that person is maybe not going to be the person that would be a good fit for you. So when you go back, I truly believe in surrounding yourself with people that kind of think like you, that understand you, because then you're not trying to explain to somebody, like, of course I want to like have a life and be smart and make money and do things. So my thought would be, when you go back, to make sure that you stay in the world that you're in here, business, keeping it moving, still have those friends, but let's say if you're gonna go out, right? Because let's say, how do you meet your husband? Like, let's say in groups of friends and that. You may be more likely to meet somebody that understands kind of what you're doing here when you go back and you're in that space, as opposed to going back to doing exactly what you're doing before you started school.
Or to be more concrete, if you hang out with men who have studied abroad and traveled and been exposed to other cultures who view the role of women differently, you may be more likely to find somebody who is suitable to who you've become. That's only one I did. That's an idea.
It's going to be different.
Yeah.
It's going to be different when you go back. This has changed you. These experiences change you.
For the better.
For the better.
We think for the better.
We think for the better. Whatever, but it changes who you are, and it changes who the right person for you probably is.
And hang around with those people.
The people that you respect, like that you can have intelligent conversations with. I think we've all kind of said, yeah, we go to work because we like to talk to people and we like to have intelligent conversations, use our brains. So hang out with those people, right? That are smart and interested in things that you're interested in, and then I think that those men will see that as attractive and be around, and those are the ones that you probably want to be around. The ones that want to be around the smart girls. Those are the ones you want.
My mother also work now, so I look my mother. She got very large stress from work or housework. So please tell me how to release the stress from some work or housework.
So we own a really old home and we're do-it-yourselfers. And right now I have a refrigerator that's sitting in the middle of my kitchen because we are remodeling our kitchen. So not only do I work full-time and my full-time mom, we're remodeling our house. And there's some things that you just have to let go. Right now, honestly, my house looks like a dust pit. And because we're doing the remodeling, I have put in my head, I'm kind of okay with that. I'm not going to worry about it. So I think you need to not worry about everything being perfect. Do the best job that you can at work and the best job at being a parent, and kind of don't worry about the other stuff. And honestly, when our house gets back to normal, I'm going to hire our cleaning person back, and she cleans the house. And we have Peapod for groceries, and I go online and I order it, and they deliver it to my door. There's ways to work around those things. You just have to find them and not feel guilty about it. And we're having people over for dinner tomorrow night, and my house really does look like the money pit. And I'm not embarrassed by that. I don't care. It's like my friends aren't judging me on the cleanliness of my house, nor what it looks like. They're judging me on the value that they find in my friendship, and I love that, and I really, I kind of don't really care what it looks like.
Don't let people judge you on things like how clean your house is. That's not who you are. That's how to relieve the stress. It doesn't matter.
However, I would like to tell you that my mother was a cleaning fanatic.
So was mine.
All right, but she did not play games with me. I don't recall sitting down and playing cards or Chutes and Ladders with her. And one time, my husband and I were in the middle of a move, and I had to bring my kids over to her house, and she said, "Oh, I've got to get the vacuuming done." And this, I will never forget this as long as I live. And I said, "All right, I'll do that. You can do whatever the other thing is." So I called my boys over, I sat them down, and I gave them something to do. And my mother came in and she said, "You haven't started the vacuuming yet." And I looked at her and I said, I didn't know that there was a time, that it had to be done by a certain, we weren't expecting company or anything. And I felt that the needs of the children, I don't just say, "Go take care of yourself, I have to vacuum." So, but she did, obviously. This was, so put it in perspective as to what is important to you. You have to remember that you're calling the shots. You're making this life. And people come over my house and sometimes they find me in disarray. I'm in the middle of ironing and all the clothes are out on the couch, and some things are hung up and some are on the couch, and I'm sitting there. It looks lived in. It doesn't look like House Beautiful where somebody takes a pic. We live in that house and we're happy in that house. My mother she couldn't stand it I came home from school, put my books on the table, took off my shoes, and I left them there. I mean, it ruined her, because she had spent all day, because that's where her self-worth was. It took me a long time to understand that. Her self-worth was, I can keep a beautiful house. All right, and then I come along and I could care less whether the house was perfect or not. So obviously we didn't see eye to eye on those kinds of things. But it's within you, and you make the priorities. If you're afraid of being judged and all your friends are coming over, if your mother works outside and she still has to keep up with having the perfect home, it's unfortunate, but she's going to lose that battle because she hasn't found a balance. There isn't a balance. You make what that balance is. If it's 3/4 clean, is that good? Close the door. Do you know, if people are coming over and the room is messy, close the door. Don't let anybody see.
And I will tell you, I remember one of my friends telling me her mother's best secret was whenever company was coming over to fill the washing machine with all the clutter. So.
Well, I was going to say, so my 16-year-old, I think she should have been born a boy. She is a slob. Coffee cups that have mold growing them in her room. She's disgusting. And I have accepted that, and I refuse to clean her room, and her door remains shut morning, noon, and night because I don't want to see it, but I don't worry about it anymore because I'm not going to clean it for her, and it's her filth that she's living in. If she's okay with it, then she can have it. So
I do a math problem. I have to work 3 hours to pay my cleaning person to come twice a month. I am willing to work for 3 hours to have somebody come in and scrub my toilet and to go out in my shower. Now, keeping up with the day-to-day stuff is not overwhelming for me, especially because if you work and if you have kids and all the other things going on all the time, it's not overwhelming for me. If you have people that dry cleaning, right? So you bring your soup goes to dry cleaner. I don't iron at the house. I don't know. My dry cleaner's way better at it. So I let them do it.
But I'm going to take our ironing though, okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it to you. But if you think about it, if you have to work 3 hours, 3 hours. That's what I have to work for my house to be clean. Yes, I will do what I like 75% of the time, or 25% work, 75% you like what you do. I will spend that time in order, if it's important to me, and it's important to me. I am my house is clean, very organized. My boyfriend moved in a year ago. I was how you used to live, it's not gonna be how it is, because I'm organized. That everything needs to be off the counters, everything needs to be clean. And I can keep up with it on the day-to-day stuff as long as, that cleaning person, if you work, you can't do it all. There's no way. There's absolutely no way to do everything. Something has to give. And that's the idea of switching from keeping a home to working. So you have to, the balance is you keep the home differently. right? You do some of the stuff and you outsource some of it. You know, that's outsourcing.
Outsourcing.
Everybody's doing it, you know?
And you're not gonna change your mom. You know, and she'll do what she does, but don't let her change you. I have to say that my mother was like Kate's. And finally, she would come to my house and she'd say, don't even try to clean up for me, because you'll never do a good enough job. And I said, great. Whatever really makes you crazy in my house, clean it. Feel free. And every time she came, she cleaned my microwave oven, she cleaned my coffee maker, and she cleaned my kid's sink. Okay.
My mother cleans my house every time she comes. Everything's rearranged. I'm like, what's
But make your own rules.
I never got any particular pleasure out of cleaning.
No, me
It just, I don't.
I do it because I don't like it to be dirty.
Yeah, right, that's it, yeah.
But at the end of the day, though, when you talk about stress, you know, stress comes because we don't have enough time, right?
Right.
If we had time to do everything, you know what, we wouldn't be stressed. So all I think about is, you know, be comfortable in your own, in your own skin, and control decisions of what you'd like to do. Because you might make a decision, okay, that might not be the decision I make, but it's not wrong. You know what, it's whatever you're feeling. Feelings aren't, as they say, feelings aren't right or wrong, it's whatever you would like to do at that moment. So if it's cleaning the house, if it's going to a movie, it's all time. So when you're at that movie, and you're stressed about here, because you don't have time, to do this, now you're not enjoying the movie, because you should be, here. So just be comfortable really in making those choices, because stress we will never have enough time. So just
And let it
throw
go.
that out the window,
And then
exactly.
let
Throw it out the window, just kind of be comfortable in really what you do, and make decisions. They might not all be what someone else might make, that's okay. You know what, that's okay, they're your decisions, stick to your decisions. And if you can find more than 24 hours during the day, let me know, because I need time. Let me know how you do it.
Okay, Frank. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm sure there are more questions, but our guests are busy people, so we should probably stop here. No one can tell you what to do with your life. Only you know what can make you happy. But all of us can learn from the experience of other people. And I know that all of us can learn from the experiences that our guests have shared with us tonight. So please join me in thanking them for coming tonight.
First off, the mistakes that you made weren't really mistakes. They were just trying something out. It wasn't a mistake. When you go to the store to buy clothes, you try on lots of different things before you decide what you want. So those weren't mistakes. Those were just things that you tried. And now you have information and ideas that you can now get make a better decision on it. But it will be a better decision, but not a mistake.
And I'm happy, you're all happy
Yes,
Oh, yes, I have my
Maybe my question will be a little long.
Okay. Thank you for having us. It was so nice to meet you.
This is dramatic. It's not
Of my future. So last year I made a new company and I accountant or actually I want to abroad, so I can make my research.
Okay, I would just say, if you have an opportunity, try it. Try it. You know what, I mean, if you think you have a desire to be, because accounting can go, like I said, in many facets. So, internationally, it does speak the same, the same language, with finance. So you can, in other words, our firm, I'm working with, international companies, which I would never think that I would do. I would never think that I would do being here. So what I would try it. The worst that can happen is, don't like it. Or if it's gonna lead you to something else, and maybe in the finance numbers, you know what, field. So I would utilize the opportunity, if you have that opportunity, you'll never know if you didn't try.
I also think that sometimes working outside of the family business before you go and work for the family business is helpful. I work a lot with the Family Business Association in Massachusetts, and a lot of the kids go and work outside for 5 years or something. So let's say right now, like your father's accounting firm doesn't have an international